Earlier this year, European voices were loud and they were clear. Stay away from America. Do not go. Boycott the World Cup. The country is dangerous. The country is broken. The country is not safe for visitors. Politicians said it. Newspapers printed it. Lawyers went on television and told people to stay home. Entire movements formed around the idea that setting foot on American soil in the summer of 2026 was something no self-respecting European should do. And then the tournament started. And the same Europeans who had been warned, who had been told, who had read every headline about why America was a place to avoid, they came anyway. Because soccer pulls people places that fear cannot stop them from going. And what happened next is something that nobody who issued those warnings can explain. Something that no politician predicted. Something that has been spreading across European social media in a way that is completely unstoppable. Europeans arrived in America ready for the worst. And America did to them what America has always done to people who show up ready for the worst. It made them fall in love with it. This is the story of how that happened. And if you are American, every single second of this video was made for you. To understand the full weight of what happened this summer, you have to go back to the months before a single match was played. The noise coming out of Europe about this World Cup was unlike anything seen before a major international sporting event. Politicians from Germany, France, Denmark, and the United Kingdom publicly floated the idea of a boycott. Lawyers told fans that traveling to America was a risk not worth taking. Newspapers ran stories about what could go wrong. Social media filled with warnings, with fear, with the settled certainty of people who had built a complete picture of a country from nothing but headlines. The message was consistent and it was loud. America in 2026 was not a place you wanted to be. That was the picture European fans packed alongside their scarves and their match tickets when they finally boarded their flights. Not curiosity, not openness. A wall of preconception built from years of international coverage that selected only for what confirmed the narrative and discarded everything that did not. They landed in that state of mind. And America had absolutely no idea what was about to happen to them. Before we go any further, if you are American and this video is landing somewhere real for you, subscribe right now. This channel covers the stories about this country that the mainstream conversation walks right past. You need to be here for what is coming next. The first thing that dismantled the wall was not a landmark. It was not a famous skyline or a stadium or a tourist attraction. It was ordinary Americans going about their ordinary lives. European fans who had arrived braced for hostility found people who waved at strangers for no reason. People who held doors. People who asked where you were from and actually wanted to know the answer. People who, when they found out you had come from the other side of the world to watch soccer, responded not with indifference, but with the kind of genuine enthusiasm that is almost impossible to fake and impossible to resist. The hospitality that started flooding social media in the first week of the tournament was not coming from hotel lobbies or tourism offices. It was coming from parking lots and gas stations and neighborhoods and roadside diners. It was coming from ordinary Americans who had never read a single European newspaper article calling their country a place to avoid. They had just woken up that morning and decided, the way they always decided, to treat whoever crossed their path like they mattered. For visitors who had arrived expecting coldness, this was not a pleasant surprise. It was a shock, and shocks of that kind do not fade quickly. They sit with you. They make you replay moments on your phone late at night. They make you question everything you thought you understood about a place. They make you put your feelings into a post and send it out into the world because you have no other way of processing what just happened to you. The posts came in waves. And the waves kept building. The videos of first-time reactions became a category of content all their own. The disbelief on people's faces as they walked through the doors was impossible to manufacture and impossible to look away from. Free refills triggered their own international conversation. A concept so routine in American dining culture that most Americans have genuinely never thought about it became, for visitors from countries where a single glass of soda arrives with a bill attached, something bordering on revolutionary. The realization that the glass could simply be filled again and again and again at no additional cost produced reactions that range from confusion to pure joy to the kind of laughter that comes from encountering something so simple that you cannot believe you have been living without it your whole life. The cheerleaders happened. European fans arriving at American venues for the first time had not been briefed on cheerleaders. The spectacle of a full professional squad performing at halftime, the precision, the athleticism, the sheer theatrical production of it, landed on visiting supporters like something from another dimension. Footage of European fans watching their first cheerleader performance spread across the internet in hours and kept spreading for days. Their faces told every part of the story that words could not. Texas barbecue changed people permanently. Visitors who had eaten well their entire lives sat down in front of slow-smoked brisket and ribs and came away saying, publicly and without embarrassment, that it was the best food they had ever eaten. Not the best American food, the best food. That claim appeared so consistently, in so many different languages, from so many different countries, that it stopped being anecdotal and started being a pattern. Nashville hot chicken, tailgates, the kind of American sunset that only exists over open country and that no Instagram filter has ever accurately captured. The landscapes, the sheer, uncontainable scale of a country that is not one thing, but many things, stacked on top of each other, spread across a geography that makes the entirety of Europe feel compressed. Every single one of these things hit European visitors as a revelation. Not because they are extraordinary in isolation, because they are ordinary here, because this is simply what daily life in America looks like. And the gap between that daily life and the picture European media had been painting for years turned out to be so enormous that it produced something nobody had predicted. It produced grief. The specific grief of realizing you had been wrong about something for a very long time. This is the part of the story that the data cannot capture. This is the part that lives in the specific, unrepeatable moments that have been shared tens of millions of times and still feel personal every single time. European fans cried in America this summer, not from sadness, from being overwhelmed by something they had not prepared for and could not contain once it arrived. A German fan who had come to Boston carrying every warning he had been given about crime, about danger, about a country that had supposedly lost its mind, found himself on local television trying to explain what had actually happened to him. He had been picked up by a group of Boston locals who drove him to his hotel. A small act. The kind of thing that happens here all the time. And he could not get through describing it without breaking down. Because small acts of genuine human kindness, when they arrive where you expected none, do not feel small. They feel like everything. That moment was not an isolated one. It was the most visible point of a pattern that ran through the entire tournament. Visitors who arrived defended against this country found themselves completely undefended against its people. And the people never stopped showing up. Stories spread of European fans invited to family barbecues by neighbors they had never met, sitting around tables with Americans who had seen their scarves and wanted to make sure they knew they were welcome. Of locals in cities far from the tourist trail going out of their way to show visiting fans something real about where they lived. Not the curated version, not the postcard version, but the actual neighborhood, the actual favorite restaurant, the actual place they went on a Sunday morning. Of moments in stadiums where American fans who had never watched a full soccer match before somehow found themselves singing along, badly and joyfully, to European chants they had never heard until that night. The word that kept appearing in post after post, across country after country, in language after language, was the same word that appeared in the previous video about this moment. Healing. Visitors using it to describe what it felt like to be here. Not a vacation word, not a tourism word. A word that carries weight. A word people reach for when something has shifted in them that they cannot fully explain. Americans, what have you done to us? What followed the emotional wave was something harder and more lasting. European fans who had been changed by what they found here came home and sat with a question that would not go away. How did we get this so wrong? Not wrong in a small way. Wrong in a fundamental, comprehensive, years-long way. Wrong in a way that required sustained effort to maintain. Wrong in a way that required ignoring, dismissing, or simply never encountering anything that contradicted the narrative. The posts that emerged from that reckoning were different in tone from the joy posts. They were quieter, more deliberate, people writing out the thing they had believed, and then writing out the thing they had found, and sitting in the space between the two and asking how that gap was allowed to exist. One recurring phrase became the summary of this entire moment, said in different ways, at different times, by people who had never spoken to each other. I judged you on stereotypes. And I was wrong. And I am sorry. That apology was not demanded. Nobody asked for it. It came from the internal experience of people who had held a picture for years, encountered the reality, and felt the moral weight of the distance between the two. The European media that had spent years constructing and maintaining that picture has been largely silent on what its audience discovered when they finally arrived on the ground. There have been no major features examining the gap between what was reported and what was found. No prominent reckonings with the possibility that the coverage was incomplete or selective or shaped by something other than a commitment to accuracy. The people, though, the ordinary European fans who came for soccer and found something else entirely. They have not been silent. They have been saying, loudly and continuously, the thing that the institutions around them have not said. We were wrong about this place. This country is not what we were told. And meeting it changed us in ways we are still processing. They came for the World Cup.